there, and welcome back to the Pop Culture Coram Deo podcast. We're assuming that it is welcome back, but if you're a first-time listener, let us give you a very special welcome to this episode as well. My name is Jeff Wright. I'm here with my regular co-host, Jared Moore. Jared, how is life treating you right now?
Doing well, man. Crazy busy, but doing well.
Yeah. Busyness is a thing right now. Usually summer tends to drop off for pastors, but I don't think my schedule got the memo this year. I've been busier than any other summer comparably. It's been a minute since we talked on here, bud.
I know, man. I've missed you.
Oh, I bet you're just laying awake at night thinking about the favorite songs we've shared and maybe holding a picture of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah, I thought so. Did you finish your PhD since we last talked?
No. Yeah, that sucker's hanging around, but I got an extension fee added to my account, which blessed my heart. So
you haven't, earned the PhD yet, but they have earned more of your money by letting you hang around in the program.
That's exactly right.
Well, yeah, I'm glad somebody's making money.
$2,000.
$2,000, huh? That's almost like $2,000 that came out of your checking account. Good night.
Yes, that's I'm done, or I'm gonna be sleeping on the couch.
Yeah,
not really, but I just need to get it done.
Well, when you go to the couch, just make sure you take that picture of mine that you cuddle and all of our favorite songs, and you'll make it through.
You're such a dork, man.
All right, we're here to talk about Mission Impossible Fallout. But since it has been a while since we've talked, Jared, I'm going to ask you, have you been watching or reading anything particularly good? Again, I know you're working on your PhD, but have you watched or seen, of course, watched or read anything good since we last talked?
I've enjoyed Castle Rock so far. I'm trying to think. I can't remember if there's any conscience warnings on there. I'm sure there is. So listener, be sure you check out conscience stuff before you watch it. Cause I'm always doing something else while I've got it on. So, but from what I've seen, I've enjoyed so far. I think the story is good. There's a good mystery there. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
Somebody's going to tell us what hardened consciences we have, but I can't think of anything yet either. I'm 3 episodes in. I haven't watched 4 and 5 yet. As of this recording, I think they've dropped 4 and 5. I haven't watched them yet, but, listener, I guess I should say this too. If you're not familiar with what we're talking about, Castle Rock is a Hulu series that is sort of a conjunction of Stephen King's work. Like, all of his stuff is written basically in Maine, and this is a town in Maine that borders Derry, where the events from the book It took place, and that other town, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's where the shop in Needful Things was located. So this is like a Stephen King mega universe series, but it's telling a new story, and it's got Bill Skarsgård in it, Terry O'Quinn. I think Jared and I both have been looking forward to it for a long time. And so Hulu they dropped the first 3 episodes, and then they've been putting one a week out so far. And yeah, I'm enjoying it too. My wife, who normally hates horror, she's been enjoying watching it with me.
Yeah, Skarsgård he played It in the latest It movie, just in case. So he's a very strange looking fella, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's not playing Pennywise in this one. He's on the record. I mean, I know you know that, but he's on the record saying, I'm definitely not Pennywise. I'm an entirely different character. So, yeah, I'm enjoying that as well. Anything else?
I watched Batman today, Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah, we're fresh on the heel of the 10th anniversary of that movie.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it's an excellent. It's the best Batman of all time, right?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna throw this at you. Best superhero movie of all time?
Even better than the latest Avengers, Infinity War?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm like criticizing 2 giants there, but I just feel, I was having this conversation with some of my students at school. Do we think that, Heath Ledger's performance is so great because he died, or was it actually that good? And what I've just, I've come to the conclusion that his death made us maybe pay more attention to how good his performance was. Mm-hmm. But the writing, the visuals, the characters, that movie just doesn't have a weakness. And I think the opening shot of the Joker bank robbers, mm-hmm. that's maybe the best opening sequence to a movie ever. Mm-hmm.
My favorite scene in that movie movie is when Batman is headed towards the Joker on his motorcycle, and the Joker's got one of those miniguns, like those old school Uzis, and he's just firing and saying hit me, because he's playing on Batman's morality, and he knows he's not going to hit him, but he's just crazy enough that even if he does, he doesn't. I mean, he's just a sinister. It's just a great character, and it's not just that. It's true, and Jared Leto's Joker, man.
Oh my gosh!
So
don't even mention that.
They've ruined the Joker, man. I mean, how do you ruin? Oh man, how do you ruin the
villain
Joker?
Ever, at least coming out of comic books? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're always wanting to do the Joker, ain't they? I mean, everybody's always wanting to do the Joker.
Well, here is what I'm going to say. I think there's probably a bunch of actors who don't want to go after Ledger, and so I want to doff my cap to Leto and say, "Way to be brave, son." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that does not mitigate in one bit, one iota, what an abject failure that character and characterization was.
Oh yeah. And I've learned from you, Jeff, that they've got 2 Joker movies in the works with just Leto.
I think one of them they are looking to cast Joaquin Phoenix.
Love to see him. He's kind of crazy, anyways. I'd love to see him with that character.
It was actually his casting that made me realize that there must not be a bunch of people in Hollywood brave enough to try to follow Ledger. Ledger had to kind of muscle up after the '89 Batman. The Jack Nicholson Joker. I think a lot of people were intimidated to play the character after him, and Ledger took a big swing and knocked it out of the park. So it makes me think with Leto and Joaquin Phoenix that it takes somebody a little bit crazy to try to do something different. But the fact that Leto's Joker is getting a standalone film, I mean, you want to know what's broken about DC creative? That's all you need to know. Exhibit A.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid. I mean, maybe we need to do an episode on The Dark Knight, but I really would like to talk to you sometime about what I think now of as the Joker dilemma. His whole thing is I'm an agent of chaos, but he's not. He's the best planner in the movie. And there's a scene that I noticed this most recent time I watched it where the Joker is reading the script for the speech he's going to give before he lets Gotham know there's bombs on the ferry. He's planning ahead. He's got a script. And so I've come to think of it as a dilemma whether the Joker is actually a hypocrite or that in some twisted way he can be seen as having integrity within himself.
I think he's afraid of chaos. I think he likes chaos if he controls it.
He likes seeing people kind of twist in the mess he's made.
Yes, like it's like the anarchist who still has a leader. Yeah. Like it is a walking contradiction. Because how can someone who wants anarchy have a leader, right? But that's what I think. He wants chaos for everyone else. He wants to control, almost like probably how he views God. I mean, I know that might be you would know more if that's in the comic books or not. But I would say he wants to be God.
Well, I guess that's enough of a rabbit trail on The Dark Knight. But I'm kind of warm to the idea of us taking a look back at that movie now. Listeners, if you want to hear more from us, you want to hear a full episode length treatment of The Dark Knight, I think Jared and I will both enjoy that. So get at us on social media, our Facebook group, the Pop Culture Coram Deo Perpetual After Party. We'd love to hear that, and you'd be able to persuade us, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen all the Joker cartoons, whether it's the TV shows or the movies. I mean, even cartoon movies. So I think Ledger is the best. But just based on what little I know, you've read the comics, so you know more about the Joker than I do. But just seems the organized, like you said, he loves chaos, but
he plans very particularly to execute it right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, since we've last talked, Christy and I have been watching back through Jaws.
Okay.
As a franchise, and that has been quite the journey, man. So Jaws is awesome. I'd never seen it all the way through before. Can you believe that?
No, I can't, man. I mean, that haunted my dreams when I was a kid.
Yeah, so it's really good. It deserves all the hype. Basically because of the Quint character, the old salty sea dog who's like going to go fight. You know, he's incredible, man. There's a scene in that movie. I guess I can say this without spoiler alert. There's a scene where he goes through when, you know, his ship, the Indianapolis, went down and in tiger shark infested waters. Remember that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That was all ad libbed. That he just told the crew, or he told the director, I guess Spielberg. He said, "I know what you're wanting to get here. Let me just go with it." And he delivered that extemporaneously.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So part 2 is still really good, but I think it misses Richard Dreyfuss and Quint basically. But it, you know, pretty good movie.
But they got 8, didn't they? Or one of them got 8.
Oh yeah. Quint got eaten up. Then we get to Jaws 3D, which I watched in 2D. All right, let me just throw this at you and see if you knew this. A young Dennis Quaid stars in Jaws 3. Did you know that?
No.
And there's a young Leah Thompson who's also a co-star.
No, I did not know that.
It is visually, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. At one point, the submersible, they're in a submersible and they just turn it like from right to left and it just disappears for a while. And like there's a time when the shark is about to crash through a window and all that is missing from the shark visual is the popsicle stick that the guy's holding to move it along the line of the movie.
Oh my goodness.
And in the third one, the shark begins to growl. It just delighted me the first time I heard it growl. And then they do that for part 4 as well, Jaws the Revenge.
Oh, you saw 4? I didn't know there were 4 of them.
Yeah, so 4, let me just tell you this. At 4, they just completely pretend like 3 never happened. So, which it's hard to blame them for, but 3 follows the 2 Brody sons. Okay, so like they're young men. One ends up working at SeaWorld. The other one comes to visit. They just throw all that away. Hard reset. When you get to Jaws the Revenge, one brother, the younger brother, is now the sheriff of Amity, or sorry, the police chief of Amity, the way his dad was. Mm-hmm. And the other brother is working, doing oceanographic studies with Mario Van Peebles doing a Jamaican accent, which is pure joy. So anyway, eventually, so Mrs. Brody, the actress from the first 2, comes back. She's the center of the story now, and she has developed a psychic connection with a shark that is terrorizing the family. At one point, they fly her from Amity down to where they're not in Jamaica, they're in like the Bahamas, but some tropical environment. The shark shows up 2 days later. It has swam from Amity to, I looked it up. It's like almost 2,000 miles away. 2 days. She can sense it's coming. Also, reference to The Dark Knight. I don't know why I can't remember his name because I love him. Oh, Michael Caine, who plays Alfred.
Yes.
He's also in Jaws the Revenge, and he may be the hero of the story.
Oh, my goodness, man.
So if you want to do Mystery Science Theater at home, Jaws 3D and Jaws the Revenge are just absolute pleasures. Otherwise, avoid them like the plague.
That is so funny, man. You talk about a nosedive off a cliff.
Oh, absolutely.
Please tell me Spielberg stayed away from 3 and 4.
If he didn't, I guarantee you he wouldn't claim it today. Like if he had any hand in it, I guarantee you he would deny it. So then there's this movie that came out right after Jaws called Piranha. Mm-hmm. And it's this low budget kind of trying to appeal to the same thing that Jaws did, only it's piranhas in freshwater. It's a definite stay away. One of the things that's so frustrating about that movie is that there's just surprise nudity. Like you'll be watching, I watched it with my wife, and you'll just be watching, and for no good reason, there'll just be nudity. And if that weren't the case though, man, this is it's the perfect make fun of the movie as you watch it movie. But to just wrap this up, because I know we've went a little long on this, Netflix has a movie called 47 Meters Down. Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm. I have. It's good.
Man, I was blown away by how good it was.
Yeah. Mandy Moore?
Yeah. I mean, Mandy Moore, shark movie, those are not, in my book anyway, a recipe for like thrilling entertainment. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the most intense viewing experiences I've had in a while.
Yeah, good call.
Me and my wife were just watching it laying in bed before we go to bed at night, which, by the way, recipe for great night's sleep right there. But I noticed at one point, I think we were holding hands just kind of unconsciously, and I realized I had like clamped down in her hand hardcore. But yeah, that movie is just a trip. I felt a couple times in that movie, now not to the degree, but I felt in that movie shades of what I felt. And I'm going to say this so far: the bear scene in The Revenant. You know what I'm talking about?
The bear scene in The Revenant.
Yeah, isn't that the Leo DiCaprio movie where
where he's getting destroyed by the bear?
Dude, with that bear scene, I was almost in the fetal position the whole time it was happening. And I didn't quite get there with 47 meters down, but there's one scene where one of the main characters gets an up close and personal that I kind of like a muscle, not the thing that your heart is, but the thing that a pearl grows in. I almost slammed shut like a muscle. I don't know what was going on, but I just sat bolt right up in bed because it caught me by surprise.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah,
that was a good movie. It even had, the twists and stuff was good.
Yeah, if you're listening to this out there in podcast world, I would love to get recommendations on the next shark movie I should watch other than The Meg. I was doing this to kind of get ready to watch The Meg, but like there's The Shallows and a couple other shark movies that are supposed to be pretty good, but I'd love it if somebody would say, hey, this is the one you should watch next. I'd love to get that recommendation.
Good call.
All right, man. Well, you ready to start talking about Mission Impossible?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let me start off the way we always do with a film summary. And Jared, you've accused me in the past of just reading from IMDb. I'm totally going to do it this time. Listen to this IMDb summary. Ethan Hunt and his IMF team, along with some familiar allies, race against time after a mission gone wrong. So since I stumbled through that, let me give it to you again. Ethan Hunt and his IMF team, along with some familiar allies, race against time after a mission gone wrong. Is that not the most vague and repeatable movie summary you've ever heard in your life?
Yes. Is that the summary for every Mission Impossible movie or just this one? That
is totally the first thought I had there too. Like they just said, let's come up with one for the whole franchise. Rinse, repeat, lather. So yeah, that's what this movie is about. And from this point on, listener, you are entering into spoiler territory. And so that's about as non-spoilery a summary as can possibly be given. From here on out, if you're listening, we're assuming you're happy to hear spoilers. So just a heads up. Hey, speaking of the Mission Impossible franchise, are those movies fresh in your mind? Have you watched them?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, so I decided I would go back and rewatch these.
Really?
Yeah. Like you, I try to, I say I try. I'm often alone in an office, and so I'll put something on in the background to just have noise and kind of watch while I'm doing other stuff. So I was going to plow through the Mission Impossible franchise that way. I thought I had seen every one of these, but I just completely missed Ghost Protocol from 2011. Didn't know it existed. No idea.
That's a good one. I thought that was a good one.
Yeah. See, I had skipped right over to Rogue Nation. No idea about Ghost Protocol, so I got to catch it up. Do you have a favorite?
I would say this one probably.
It is really good. A lot of people are saying it's the best in the series, so it's hard to argue with that. I'm going to go with part 3. Do you remember anything about part 3?
Yeah, I remember part 3 being good.
Well, for me, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, he is good.
He is so great in that movie. There's a scene, I don't know if you'll remember it, but Hunt is trying to intimidate him, so he hangs him out of the cargo door of an airplane in flight, and Hoffman doesn't break. And when Hunt pulls him back up, he says, "Yeah, now I see how you treat people when you have them in your power." And the movie starts with Hunt begging for him to not kill his love interest. It's chronologically after the time when Hunt tried to torture him. I mean, Seymour Hoffman is so good, man. And I liked Lawrence Fishburne. He's in that one. And then the idea of Ethan maybe settling down, I thought was a good element. So I'm still with number 3, but the last 2 have been really, really good.
Yeah, man.
Can I give you a hot take on this movie?
Yeah.
I think this movie, we're talking about Mission Impossible Fallout. I think this movie convinced me that Scientology is legit.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, how else do you explain Tom Cruise?
Does he do all his stunts?
He does all of his stunts. In fact, there's a scene where Benji is directing him to chase down Henry Cavill's character, and he jumps out of a window and he takes off sprinting, and it's like a 4-minute unedited shot of him just in a dead sprint. He's 56 years old.
Good grief.
And then
I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah. This is the first movie I've ever seen from him where I can tell that he's getting crow's feet around his eyes and his cheeks are getting a little jowly.
Mm-hmm.
What else explains that except that he leveled up to like Thetan level Infinite 6+3 or whatever they are?
No idea, man. That's crazy. Scientology.
Yeah, Scientology. He just went clear. You talking about him doing his own stunts. All this stuff is him doing his stunts. There's a scene where I think it's right after the one I just described where he's just sprinting to show everybody I'm 56 and I can dead sprint better than you ever will be able to. But he's got to jump across a gap between two buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he jumps and you see him kind of land on the corner of the building. He doesn't quite make it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice when he gets up and he takes off running again, he starts off limping.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he broke his ankle.
You got to be kidding me.
No, straight up broke his ankle. And he said that they would never get that shot again. And so he knew he'd hurt himself, but he also knew he had to get up and start running again because they wouldn't be able to get the shot again.
Wow, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's pretty... Yeah.
I think I'm going to order an e-meter on eBay, and I'm going to let you start checking me for engrams.
For what? I don't even know I don't know as much as you do about Scientology.
Yeah, dude. You need to.
What are you talking about?
You need to read a book called Going Clear. There's a good documentary made from the material, but the book is incredibly better. It's just a takedown of Scientology.
Okay.
But I'm in now. I'm totally not in case anybody doesn't recognize my sarcasm, but Tom Cruise is a trip. And you know,
Jeff, just honestly, man, with me and you, it would take it would take more than another religion to get us in the shape of Tom Cruise.
How dare you? Yeah, Cruise shows up as like Mr. Scientology. He's like, I'm sorry, guys, there's just no hope for you.
Yeah, y'all just ain't going to make it. No. Even if I had 2 years with you, I still couldn't turn you into me.
Well, on a more serious note, I realized that, I mean, really, this is the first time I've seen Tom Cruise look like he's aging at all. You know, he doesn't age in dog years. He ages like those turtles on the Galapagos Islands. You know what I mean? He may be a chimera. He may have non-human DNA. But the fact that he is aging a little bit made me realize I think I had dismissed him. Like, you know, around the time he's jumping on Oprah's couch, he kind of became a laughing stock. There's a lot of action movie stars that we are going to see shuffle off the stage of history pretty soon. And he's at the far end of this. We should get, you know, if the Lord is kind to let us live longer and him as well in their natural lifespans, Cruise should have some more years ahead of him. But I'm thinking about like Arnold and Stallone and, you know, even Statham's getting older.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to miss Tom Cruise the most whenever that moment comes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love spy movies. I mean, I love that Ethan's not like James Bond sleeping with every woman in sight. I mean, you know, that he's actually got an ethic and morality.
I'm with you. That I didn't think this movie was going to have much to talk about, but the more I chewed on it, I did realize that his ethics are really at the heart of this thing. And I think it's why people keep coming back for 20 years now.
Mm-hmm. How is this character different from Jack Ryan, though? Like,
I think Jack Ryan is much more nihilistic and much more force of nature. I think Jack Ryan is like Agent Walker, Henry Cavill's character. He's got a better moral code, but he's kind of like anything it takes to get there. And I'm not going to treat a bad guy as if they, you know, deserve compassion or anything. He's just going to mow people down if they're in the way of what's right.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's my take. I've read a couple of those novels. I've always enjoyed the movies, but the books are really good too. If you kind of like that throwaway fiction stuff, you know, Tom Clancy and Michael Connelly. But that's my difference. Somebody listening to this can tell us what I got wrong, but that's what I would posit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Henry Cavill, I really wanted this to be his breakout role.
Yes.
Did you know that this is the movie, and specifically his mustache is what people hate about his Superman and Justice League? Because they had to go in and digitally remove the mustache. He wouldn't shave it off because he had to have it for Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I saw that. I never even noticed it. I assume people were looking for it.
Yeah, there's a scene where he and Lois are standing out in a cornfield, and it's just tight on his face quite a bit. And I think that's where people are like, holy cow, look at the CG here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this movie breaks him out, though. Do you?
I don't, but I mean, and he's not just like you said, there's been other bad guys in this franchise that were better, more sinister. I mean, this guy was. I mean, I must admit the fight scenes were amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you what your favorite one was here in just a minute.
I was hoping that that Cruise would just hand the franchise over to him. Like he would be a good guy. I was hoping watching it that at the beginning there are two agents that are different philosophies, different, they got the same goal, but they have different ways of getting there, and that he wouldn't be the bad guy, but that he would come on Ethan's side towards the end. But I started seeing pretty quickly that he was the villain, But,
well, man, I could not be more with you. That's exactly what I wanted to happen here too. I wanted Ethan to take him under his wing. Maybe we get maybe even another movie with Ethan Hunt as like the lead guy, but clearly they're grooming, Walker to take over.
Yeah.
I will tell you, he is so physically intimidating in this movie. Like, he looks like Superman. In that bathroom scene, he looks like a mountain.
He does. And just I love that fight scene in the bathroom.
I think we lost you a little bit there. You said that you love the fight scene in the bathroom.
Yeah, the fight scene in the bathroom was my favorite.
Okay. Well, me too. I mean, I loved it anyway. I'm probably a little bit more torn on my favorite part, but I thought that he was wooden in his line delivery early in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I also think he got better as the movie went on, which is weird because I have no sense that like the scenes that are later in the movie, I don't have any reason to believe they were shot later in the filming schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But who he is by the end of the movie, I feel like he's a much more natural actor. He's grown into the role.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I mean, at the beginning, it was strange. I guess I don't know. I guess it would be hard to act double agent, but when he was revealed as the villain, he did well.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, maybe he's born to play the villain. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder. He was a villain trying to play the good guy.
So you're saying that maybe he's just on another level as an actor, that awkward woodenness is him kind of clearly saying, I'm using a false face right now. No pun intended, considering this is Mission Impossible.
Yeah, my assumption is that he didn't do the best acting job on it because he had it in his head, I'm a villain,
playing a good guy,
playing a good guy instead of just I'm a good guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to critique famous actors, but
that's a compelling theory. And it kind of flips the script from him being like finding his foot to actually being on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you love the bathroom fight, so I'm going to give you the bathroom fight, the motorcycle chase sequence, or the helicopter fight. Which one was your favorite? I think I know already, but those are your three options.
Yeah, the bathroom, and part of the reason is probably nostalgia from the movie True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember that bathroom fight scene from True Lies?
Man, I hadn't thought about it in years, but right now, yeah, absolutely. I need to go watch True Lies.
Yeah, it's there's a rough scene in True Lies, but growing up as a kid, I think I was 16 maybe when I went and saw that.
Oh yeah, when you say a rough scene, something sexual.
A scene where Jamie Lee Curtis, does a dance that's inappropriate.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
she thinks she's a double agent, and really it's her husband who's there. So it's just something we shouldn't be privy to, But
right. Okay. Well, if I go rewatch it, I will be on alert for that. So you're talking about earlier his Cruise's stunt work. That was really him climbing up the rope onto a helicopter and trying to get his foot on a landing gear. Apparently.
What about falling down?
I don't know about that. I'm assuming so. I think he did all of his stunts. The scene where they're in it's really early on in the movie. Walker and Hunt are going to parachute into some social event and they have to drop down through the clouds. Well, so not only was the take after, so Walker pulls Hunt's oxygen loose to stop Hunt from getting in his way, right? You remember that?
Uh-huh.
So from the moment he pulls the tube off, it's one cut and the cameraman stays with Hunt the whole time. So when Cruise goes to jump out of the cargo bay out of the plane, he's really jumping out, and the cameraman had to be in, kind of leading him out. That cameraman jumped out of the plane backwards so he could keep his camera on Cruise's face. And they said at one point Cruise was like 3 feet away from the camera.
Dude, that is crazy stuff.
I'm telling you, Cruise is, he's not a real human. He's like, he's something else wearing a human suit.
Yeah. That's insane, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the helicopter fight. I just think it was the Kashmir Mountains, and man, it was gorgeous seeing all that scenery.
Oh yeah,
just the angling, and I just thought that was awesome. But let's get into our analysis. So, listener, we start off by looking at the worldview of the movie. We compare the story of the movie against the story God is telling in history of His Son. That story plays out in 4 distinct categories. 1 is creation, 2 is fall, 3 is redemption, and 4 is glorification. So, Jared, when we're talking about creation, we're talking about how the Lord created the real world good. What is good about the world of this movie?
And there's a clear good and clear evil. There's danger. There's joy. There's something worth saving in the world, and evil must be opposed. And so it's very much like our world.
Well, I'm glad you had those things to say, because all I wrote in my notes is that the world of Mission Impossible is supposed to be the real world, although I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise is a fictional being.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You got a man crush on Tom Cruise, man?
I don't have a man crush. I'm like, I want to put him in a lab and have people study him. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but you know how like when a great racehorse dies, they like cut it open and try to figure out if it had an extra heart or something? We're going to have to do that with Tom Cruise. I mean, I hope he signed his donor card, because it's a human imperative that we study him.
They're going to study us too, man.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. I've got too many jokes that would be inappropriate for this podcast to make about that. Dude, your computer betrayed you on that. You need to repeat that.
Jared's got an elephant heart. Open me up and figure out why my heart is so huge.
Oh no, Jared, that's actually a heart disease. That doesn't make you special. It makes your kids sad. Yeah. They got real serious real fast, didn't it?
It did. It did.
So let's talk about fallenness, to distract from my fallen sense of humor. Fallenness. So are you familiar with the trolley problem in ethics?
No.
Okay. The Wikipedia entry on this is really good. So I'm going to just give it to you from Wikipedia. It's a classic ethical dilemma. So you see a runaway trolley moving toward 5 people who are tied up on the track. Okay.
Yep.
You see there's a lever that can switch the trolley onto a different track. But while you're realizing that lever's there, you look down the other track and you see there's one person tied up on the other track. So you're standing at the switch. You can choose, do I let the trolley run over the people it's already heading for, or do I flip the track and choose to kill one person instead of 5? And the ethical issue is, what's the more ethical option?
So what is the most ethical? Just personally, it would depend who the one is that's on the track, or the 5.
Oh my, situational here, huh?
It would. I mean, honestly, that's just me being honest. If my wife was on the one and 5 strangers were on the other,
it'd be hard to pull the thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being honest there. Go ahead.
I'm Batman, dude, and I would stop the train. The trolley. Yeah.
Well, that's really what this movie's about. You know, at the very beginning of the movie, Cruise can either protect the plutonium that they all assume is going to be used to make bombs, or he can save the life of his friend. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's been played by Ving Rhames in a number of these. Mm-hmm. Luther. And he chooses to save Luther, but he finds out that in doing so, he's given away the plutonium. Mm-hmm. And that's the real conflict between his boss, played by Alec Baldwin, and Angela Bassett as the head of the CIA. You know, she tells Baldwin's character that Cruise and his team should have died if that's what it took to protect the plutonium. Mm-hmm. That's the job. It's in the trailer. So anyway, that is what this movie is to me, and that's what's fallen here, is that we live in a world where the trolley problem can take place, and that we have to make those kind of decisions. Somebody has to make those kind of decisions. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite movie reviewers is Alyssa Wilkinson. I think she's currently writing for Vox, but she's written for lots of different people, including Christianity Today. This is from her review. She says, early on, it becomes clear that for those within Ethan's world of high-stakes, world-saving spy games, there are 2 fundamentally different ways to approach their jobs. For some, it's better for an operative, an asset, or even just a bystander to lose his or her life if it means that a large number of people's lives may be saved. It is, put simply, a numbers game. And I think she's nailed it right there. So how do we quantify the value of human life is part of the fallenness of this movie.
Yeah.
What would you say redemption looks like in this movie?
Compromising his ethic.
Say that one more time. I think Skype let you down.
Sorry, dude. Redemption happens when Ethan saves the day without compromising.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then glorification is just going to be that innocent people live on and the heroes live to fight another day. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I put when Ethan is omnipresent.
He can be because he's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe Tom Cruise is like Superman in the in those classic like 50s era comics where Superman had like these drone Superman robots that could go do stuff on his behalf.
I have no idea, dude.
If that's not the world we're living in, I want someone to make it so. So once we've kind of chopped up the story according to the worldview, then we get into analysis. So we do that by asking certain questions, the first of which is, what's the story? And we really want to work hard to get it right. This is a twisty plot, but there's not a ton of plot. I think that we've gotten the story right thus far, just in the worldview analysis. The second question is, where am I? And we're told to see the style and shape of the imaginary world. So, Jared, when you're watching this movie, where are you?
I want to be Ethan, man.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'm similar. I said I'm strapped on Ethan Hunt's shoulder, and I'm rooting for him like crazy. Both, something you already mentioned, both because his aims are right, but so too are his principles. There's a scene in the movie where it's kind of comedic. They have secured the bad guy, and they're going to smuggle him through whatever foreign city they're in. I say foreign, whatever European city they're in. And they raise the door in the garage, and it's four men putting a guy with a bag on his head into the back of a car. And there's a beat cop there, like writing parking tickets. Remember what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And he goes out to try to talk her down and stop her from forcing their hands to hurt her. And about that time, the bad guy's goons come along and they shoot her. And Hunt guns them down because he's also a faster cowboy than four people with guns already drawn are.
Yeah, that was an amazing scene too.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Ethan Hunt, he can do it all better than you can. But then you remember he gets down in front of her and he like helps her call in for medical assistance, tells her where to keep pressure on the wound. He just tells her, I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. Hunt, he's a throwback. Like we're used to in a post-born world seeing these action movies where, postmodernism has a lot of playroom. Action movies are, I guess the way to say it, action movies are a good playground for postmodernism to run around where nobody's good, nobody's bad. It's just people jockeying for power over and against other nations. Mm-hmm. And I say nobody's bad, just everybody's acting like a scumbag, but there's not really a good guy.
Yeah, and they make you feel empathy for the bad guy. Yeah.
But that's not Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, which I think is why people keep showing up to this for 20 years. Now, the special effects and choreography and twisty plots, all that's there too. I'm not saying it's not the only, that this is the only reason people still like these movies, but I think people still are really excited to go root for a good man doing something important.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
So what's good, true, and awesome here? And we're going to look for common grace. I mean, we're kind of already talking about some of it, but take it away. I've got a little bit to add when you're done.
Oh, yeah. Clear good, clear evil. Ethan's strong sense of morality. I think all that's great. I mean, just the various scenes that you've mentioned already.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that Hunt gets it right in that you can't pick between the one and the many. Something kind of clicked in my head about this movie. This is the same dilemma that the good guys face in Infinity War. You know, should we let a few of the good guys die so that we stop Thanos from killing half the universe? And I don't know if you remember, there's a scene where Captain America just says no. He says, we don't trade lives. So we're not going to kill this person to save other people.
My concern with that is that I think that's the opposite of just war theory. Part of just war theory is that it's just going to war if you're going to save more lives than if you don't do something good. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Like absolutely.
How could this movie is right as far as quantifying the value of life, 1 versus 1,000. How could you ever declare war?
Well, I'm not saying that the goodness of Hunt's character stretches to national policy.
Okay.
But I like that it's not afraid to say, basically that the moral hero can choose to die, but he can't choose to kill innocent people. Like you may have to do that as part of a duly elected government who God has given the sword to, right? Like I'm happy to kind of punt to just war theory on the national level because God has deputized the government to do that. But it's still good to see a hero on the ground fighting the fight who's like, no, nobody's going to die if I can see fit to stop it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I'm just curious. That was my concern with the movie. Like the thought. I don't know, dude. The thought of losing plutonium over one life. I mean that comparison is that's like, I hope there's none of our soldiers doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you imagine that fake scene that they do, which was awesome, where they deceived the guy who made the bombs.
Mm-hmm. The fake wolf blitzer.
Yeah. Just imagine if nuclear weapons went off in all those locations. I mean, over one life. I mean, just a catastrophic amount of life lost.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm going to make a distinction between a deputized agent working under duly authorized parameters and an individual. I have authorized my son to stand in my place if I'm not around and he sees someone being physically mean to his sister. Some kid on the playground is throwing sand in her eyes. If I'm not around to say, hey, son, I need you to stop that, Jack is deputized to go over and push the kid down if he has to and say, it'll be worse next time if you try it again. Jack's working under authority there. It would otherwise be wrong for him to just find a kid on the playground to like knock him around because he's bigger. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that's the same deal with governments. Governments have been given the sword by God, and as duly recognized authorities, the people who are installed in those positions, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes, but they have more moral agency to make those kind of decisions.
Right.
A guy on the ground level, like a walker, who determines, I could just try to render this guy unconscious, but it'll be a lot easier to just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie rightly pushes back against that.
Yeah.
But now it's funny because I think this is you and I coming at this from different angles. When we get into the next question of what's distorted and evil and false, how do we subvert idolatry? I kind of think this movie pushes toward a better sense of morality. But I think you're picking up on what I would call sort of a necessary relativism. There's moral relativity is a false system of ethics, but it's credible because there are times when, like you've already mentioned, when just people have to weigh one good against another. Actually, Alyssa Wilkinson in her review, she goes on to say this. Actually, there may not be a right answer to the trolley problem. Keeping the world safe may actually require people with both perspectives to cooperate. Someone who has to keep the big picture in mind may need to be able to disconnect from individuals a bit to keep an eye on the big scale repercussions. But it's just as important for operatives on the ground to act according to heart, gut, and conscience instead of abstract machine-like reasoning. Inevitably, she says, dramatic tension arises from that conflict and makes for a better movie. In addition to the absurd stunts and convoluted plot machinations, what makes the Mission Impossible movies work in general and Fallout in particular is they let their characters be characters, driven by a number of complex factors, even when they're chasing an enemy or trying to get out of a scrape. I don't know how much longer this franchise will last. Surely Cruise has to slow down eventually. You're deeply wrong, Alyssa. But as long as there are Mission Impossible movies like this, we'll be guaranteed a good time at the movies. I think she's getting at what I would like to say. She wrote it more eloquently and wrote it before I had come to a similar conclusion. But yeah, this movie kind of, I think, pushes back on it, but there is a way to read it where it sort of authorizes relativism. And I think the answer is actually found in thinking through the individual's choice versus, again, a duly authorized governmental agency. And I realize that's going to meet in the individual. But I don't think you could blame a guy who says, I wouldn't shoot my best friend to save the plutonium, even if you put those decisions on a scale and clearly there's a greater human cost to the detonation of plutonium bombs in holy cities.
Yeah, dude, that's it'd be very difficult to do, but I think our government asks soldiers and police officers to do things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, that would be awful, as you said, to have to make those decisions hopefully they're not having to on a daily basis, but man, that'd be rough.
Well, and I really think we have good evidence to think that humans are they're not built to bear that kind of load. I think PTSD is evidence that as much as the military really tries to reprogram people, it's just hard to make killing machines and the machine not break down when the machine is actually an image bearer.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for every soldier who's had to make a hard decision. I'm thankful that they're willing to take that upon themselves. So I'm not trying to denigrate military service. I'm just saying that it makes sense to me when soldiers come back and say, as a human, I don't know how to bear what I've done.
Yeah.
It's inhuman of us, I guess, to ask it of them, but I don't know how you ever get rid of war either.
Yeah, only when Christ returns and the gospel spreads,
Yeah. The war is just such an awful thing because the just version of war carries a higher cost to the human. It's a worse version of war where one drone goes to kill another drone being piloted by somebody 2,000 miles away. It dehumanizes the encounter and escalates the violence. I mean, it's where you get things like a wedding party being blown up because the drone was aimed in the wrong direction by 3 degrees or whatever,
Yeah.
But then the alternative is like face-to-face, hand-to-hand, bloodthirsty combat, which is terrible for the humans involved as well. There just aren't really good answers, except, like you said, the Prince of Peace reigning visibly on his throne.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jared, how does the gospel apply here?
I think the movie longs for Christ. It longs for a divine human. Longs for someone who,
like Tom Cruise,
someone better than Tom Cruise. Longs for a morally perfect man who's omnipresent, who always does what's right, who always protects the innocent, who always saves those who are being harmed by others. They long for the God-man, Jesus Christ. And what's amazing is that, well, he's been provided, and one day he's going to balance the books. He's going to set all things right.
Yeah, I kind of went a similar direction when I was writing this out on my side. I wrote that Hunt is sort of a shadow of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much an imperfect representation, but he's doing some similar things. So if you put him literally in the trolley scenario, Hunt is going to throw the lever toward the group of people on the track, but then he's going to try to sprint ahead of the trolley to get the captives out of the way. And there's a nobility to that. But I was thinking through, if you want to, I know we're straining a metaphor here, but if you want to apply that to Christ just stands in front of the trolley. And when the
absorbs it.
Yeah, when the trolley hits him, it stops dead in its tracks. It kills him, but then he rises from the grave.
Yeah.
And like you've already said, there's no human solution that can pull it. Well, I should say there's no merely human. It takes a God man to do what the trolley dilemma actually requires of the moral agent.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And thanks, as you've already said, thanks be to the Lord, this isn't a hypothetical or a theory. This played out in history 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And he's coming back. He's coming back soon.
Yeah, not soon enough, right? Well, Jared.
Perspective, yeah.
Come, Lord Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else you got to say about Mission Impossible Fallout?
No, man, I really enjoyed it. Again, I like these better than the Bond films.
Yeah, me too. Do you like them better than the Bourne movies? Because the Bourne movies are sort of seen as at least temporarily, the style of action movie that overturned these classic action movies like Mission Impossible.
I do like the Bourne ones, but I think I like Cruise better than, what's his name?
Jason Bourne.
Who's the character that plays him? Damon. I like
that's
him.
right. Sorry.
I like Cruise better than Damon.
Gotcha. I just realized what I did. Yeah, Matt Damon. Yeah. Bourne is sort of he's like the postmodern Ethan Hunt. Like he's going to act in self-interest and those he cares about.
Right.
Cruise is doing a lot of that. Or Hunt is doing a lot of that, but he's also doing it in service to higher principles than just survival.
Yeah.
I like the Bourne movies too. I think I like the Bourne movies though because I want to be Jason Bourne. I want to be that self-sufficient.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ethan is too. I mean, they're both. Well, you've been talking about Cruise for an hour.
Yeah.
You've been talking about Cruise, not Ethan Hunt.
They're one and the same in my mind. In fact, I'm more prepared to believe that Ethan Hunt exists in reality than I am that Tom Cruise does.
Oh, me, you're hilarious.
Well, I'm gonna try to end the joking on the fact that Tom Cruise is an image bearer, and he is deeply caught up, we assume, as a willing participant in a godless system that will destroy him justly but eternally if he persists in that unbelief. And it sounds trite as a Christian to say I'm going to pray for that person, but I really do think it'd be good to pray for Tom Cruise's soul and that God would see fit to end the deception perpetuated by Scientology in certainly within our day, but within a very short amount of time, that he would bring these people to see the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And I hope Cruise is permitted to one day see See, it's interesting, man. That folks like that who are permitted to face sickness because they don't believe it.
You mean he's going to have to actually deal with aging as a human, despite the broken theology he's believed that in some ways he's been allowed to sort of live in the delusion of for a while?
Yes, that's the thing, because I believe they don't believe in medicine because sickness and illness is a delusion, right? They view it as you just got to think yourself out of it type thing, if I'm not mistaken.
They have weird beliefs about health. I know that.
And so folks like that, it would be actually a godsend for him to have to deal with a severe illness and face his own mortality. That this is a reality, that he, the wages of sin is death, and he's running towards that. We're all running towards that, standing before our Lord.
Yeah. I mean, it's unavoidable that Tom Cruise is going to kneel to Jesus Christ one of these days. So is David Miscavige. So is L. Ron Hubbard. And for Hubbard, it appears to be too late based on what we know of his life. But it would be consistent with the scandalous grace of our Lord that he would undo deep deception in false religion by bringing these people to know his Son, the truth that is in Jesus Christ.
Amen. Let me ask you this question, this ethical question, Jeff.
Oh no.
So if Tom Cruise lived in the first century, would
I let a trolley run over him?
No. They didn't have trolleys in the first century.
They didn't have trolleys that could run over Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is going to take the Chuck Norris mantle at some point.
Oh my gosh, dude! Chuck Norris is going to reach through your microphone and punch you.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a clown. So give me your actual serious question.
If Tom Cruise was in the first century and he and Jesus got in a fist fight, who would win?
I assume Jesus would not fist fight Tom Cruise. Not because Tom Cruise is anything special, but because Jesus just didn't get in fist fights.
Dude, my point, I meant like a martial arts or like
Brother, I think this is like Jesus in a kung fu movie with Tom Cruise is getting into really dangerous territory.
Dude, I didn't mean. I'm just trying to emphasize the humanity of Jesus. He doesn't have to. Like, I'll ask people at church, or I lectured at seminary one time and asked them, anybody play college baseball? And kid raised his hand. I said, do you think you could hit a fastball from Jesus? And he said, probably not. And I'm why not? Because he's fully human. He didn't have to be a martial artist to, what I'm saying?
Clearly, if you strike him, he'll bleed.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to pull the Jesus card on you. I will say this. I know that Jesus Christ was fully God and fully human. I'm not entirely sure that Tom Cruise is fully human. I'm certain he's not fully God. I don't think there's anything divine in him beyond the normal bearing of the image of God. But I'm also not sure he's the same kind of. He's not the same kind of human I am.
Whatever, dude. If you would just exercise and eat like Tom Cruise, you would be able to jump from buildings and stuff. Let me know if you ever decided. I'll be videotaping. I will videotape you jumping from roof to roof.
I assume that I will be content to live in the if of that statement you just made. That's a big if, and it's enough room for me to live in.
Here's a poll for the after party. How many want to see Jeff jump from roof to roof? There you go.
If it's like a couple tree houses that are built close to each other, I'm game. I guess we need to end the laugh off that we've made of this episode. Friends, if you can hear me over Jared cackling, we would love to have you join us on Facebook in the Pop Culture Coram Deo Perpetual After Party. I'm really thankful for the group of people who've gathered up there. And while I know there's a lot of good reasons to not be on Facebook right now, I think that group's a good reason to be on there. Maybe you just use your Facebook account for that. But we would love to have you meet with us in there. There's a lot of content that gets passed around and discussed in there that never makes it onto the show. So please join us in that Facebook group. If you want to connect with the podcast through other social media means, we're available basically everywhere Twitter at the handle PCCD Pod. That's true for Twitter. It's for Instagram. We have a Reddit subreddit, which is /r/PCCD Pod. We'd love to hear from you through any of those avenues. And just feel free to follow, like, add. We'll follow back, I'm sure. We'd love to connect with you. So make use of that. Jared, where can people find you if they want to find you outside of the world of this podcast?
You can find me on Twitter at Jared H. Moore. You can find me on Facebook at All Truth is God's Truth. And I've got another podcast, All Truth is God's Truth. Check that out. You can find Jeff.
I am so thankful that Skype cut out right there, because I'm assuming that you were going to end. You can find Jeff with some joke that would be at my expense.
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, yes.
No, I wasn't going to say anything about you.
Yeah.
But
there's a just God you will face for every word you utter, my friend.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was going to ask folks to find us 2 tree houses that are real close together, because you said you said you would jump them.
I will do that. I am at Right Jeff on social media. I'm not nearly as goofy as you hear in this episode most of the time. I'd love to connect with you on that. And guys, if you're willing, we would really appreciate you leaving a review wherever you find your podcasts. It does a couple things for us that are really helpful. One, it lets us know what you like and don't like. So we covet 5-star reviews. Can Christians covet? Anyway, we do. We covet 5-star reviews. But if you can't, in good conscience, leave a 5-star review, leave what you can. We'll be glad to read whatever you've said and react accordingly. The other thing it does is it lets other people find this podcast. We hope that we're useful to the church in sort of the sense that Paul said we're to take every thought captive. Movies want to communicate thoughts. Movies want to disciple. They want to teach. And we hope that we're being useful in kind of taking that process back out of the hands of the people who are putting the movies out and putting it in the hands of those who want to be faithful to Christ. And so we hope that more people will find the show for that reason. You leaving a review would be helpful towards that end. So thanks in advance for those of you who do. And thanks again to those of you who already have. Anything else, Jared?
No, I think that's it, man. I love you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, man. We're kicking around 3 movies for next week. We're talking about The Meg. We're talking about Christopher Robin. And one we've been looking for a little while. It's finally made its way to video on demand. The Ethan Hawke First Reformed movie that we've mentioned on here before. Christopher Robin is the leader in the clubhouse. But if you guys want to push in one of those other directions, we'd be glad to hear that. Maybe you want us to do The Dark Knight. Get on social media. Find us on that Facebook group, Pop Culture Coram Deo Perpetual After Party. Let us know what you think. And otherwise, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Pop Culture Coram Deo podcast.